Do you know what? I always have to pause when I do these lives. I go through in my mind what I'm going to talk about, topics like the fact that Besant, he's just giving us the idea that he hasn't got a clue about what's going on. Your bonds are crashing, your dollar's dead, and everything's fine. I think most of this administration is somewhat delirious. Now, I don't have any political views, but I just look at a chart and think, what are they actually doing? But I look at Bitcoin and I think, when's this thing going to move, man? It just, if Bitcoin was a toy, it would be a yo-yo. But one of those cheap, I wouldn't even say it's a cheap one. Or is it cheap yet? That's the question. Tonight, bond crash. You've got to understand, guys, we've had several bond crashes in the past. And Besant said something really interesting today. And here's what's really funny. Trump does this war on nations, as in, trade war. And then he says, don't worry, we'll help you out. Like, what is this guy doing? Talks broke down today with the Eurozone, and now everyone's starting to encourage China, or China's saying, let's just, who was it? The Spanish minister said that China should really step in with the Eurozone and start doing business together. Right, we know that Trump doesn't like the euro because it's the only currency that technically, if BRICS were to come together and really focus on the euro, then you would have a big problem, given that 56% of the transactions on the dollar dominance are made up of the euro. So where's the dominance? Yeah, the dollar is the world's currency, but 56% of the transactions on that index are made up of euro being transacted. It's not exactly dominance now, is it? I'm going to break it all down for you tonight, guys, on the idea that if a bond crash were to happen, what would that look like for Bitcoin? So if you are new, welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. We are a little bit late, but nonetheless, no, don't trade the DAX, unfortunately. Can you talk about the whistleblowers? I've not seen anything about the whistleblowers. Are you talking about the Chinese whistleblowers? We spoke about that this morning. Let's talk about this madness. Besant says Treasury has big toolkit if needed for bonds. This guy's too chilled out. Like, he's way too relaxed for me. Look at that. This is what he's saying here. The story is, guys, that the Chinese and everyone's dumping bonds. Let me just put it to you in this perspective. Right now, you've got the bonds market currently trading at very significant, interesting levels. Okay? You've got a big gap down here, which I expect them to try and come back into at some point with the bonds. So I'm expecting bonds to go back down to 97, between the 100 and 97 region itself. Listen, it's not about what value the bonds need to be at for us to understand that things are good or not. What is the bond? The bond is a debt. And the US attaches debt to that bond and says, look, come give us your money, and we'll give you, on a 10-year bond, we'll give you 4.335%, right? Okay, cool. Then on a 2-year bond, we'll give you 3.84%. And then on a 5-year, we'll give you 3.982% on a bond, right? In my opinion, if Bitcoin were to give us consistent yields, I only think it would achieve that if, and I'm just throwing this out there right now, and if there's any of you crypto economists out there, I'd be interested to hear what you have to say. Could we get to a point where Bitcoin could achieve yields, not so much consistent, but relative to the bonds market? Could that be something that happens with Bitcoin? All right, Michael Saylor and, Strategy, they've achieved, what was it, a 4.9 or 6.9% yield on Bitcoin. So it's actually better than holding US bonds. But the problem is US bond market is deemed as low risk. Crypto Bitcoin is not deemed as low risk. But if there's enough adoption with Bitcoin, could it be part and parcel one of the assets that could be compromising and challenging the bond market? You see, you got to remember there are sovereign wealth funds that do want to put Bitcoin as a treasury asset inside of their balance sheets. So if you get enough people talking about Bitcoin and getting enough people buying Bitcoin, and companies, remember, public companies themselves hold around 600,000 Bitcoin plus. All right. So adoption is there, but Bitcoin's price is not just yet. And that's the thing that really winds me up. We're going to get to a point, ladies and gentlemen, where Bitcoin's price doesn't move because a whale is buying it. It moves because they are going to be maneuvering Bitcoin in balance sheets to offset any exposure as a hedge, maybe as a hedge against inflation. Now, someone in the channel put a comment out saying that I'm uneducated like Trump. Now, I'm not interested whether you think I'm educated or not. That's not the thing here. The thing here is the comment was tariffs, of course, are going to get pushed onto the consumer. Well, we know that, bro. That's why inflation expectations came in higher last week on the readings, because consumers know that these tariffs are going to lead to inflation going up. Trump putting out this trade war and tariffs all over the place, talking about dead deals with nations. 15 deals have come to the board. All right, cool. We're not interested in other nations. Okay, if you saw the checklist that he did on all the tariffs that are going to be put out to other nations, I'm interested in Euro, I'm interested in Japan, and I'm interested in the UK and China. Those are the economies that move the dollars. Okay, I'm not interested in Colombia. I'm not interested in other nations. No disrespect to them, but emerging markets and emerging economies, there's nothing. They don't really hold precedent yet. They don't hold precedent yet. So when you've got a trade war happening and you're trying to fuel the market with hope that there's deals across the table, when the main deal today, a spokesperson for the Eurozone said that talks broke down because we're not coming into an idea about anything, explains why the Euro took a bit of a shoe bag to the downside today. 4-hour time frame, you can see it did take a little bit of a drop. We were expecting this as the platinum members. We did do a setup today on Euro to see a drop to the downside, and it hasn't quite taken that full range to the downside. Actually, hold on. So it was at 1.12643 was the day's target to the end, and we wanted to see 1.12464. No way. No, nearly close towards it. But anyways, it came down. So that was an interesting one. But if talks are breaking down with the main Euro, it's you've got to remember, the dollar itself is deemed as a safe haven. No, it's not. Euro is now deemed as a safe haven. Yen is now deemed as a safe haven. Okay? Your bonds are not deemed as safe havens just yet. And it's because investors want a higher rate of return. Why? Because they don't trust the policies. That's why I think it's going to lead to a bond market crash, which would naturally then lead investors to say, what's the alternative? Let's go to Bitcoin. But what if they don't even go to Bitcoin? What if they keep it box standard and go to what they know? That means gold. That means yen. That means euro. They'll go against all of the other assets, all the safe havens that traditionally they will turn to when there's a time of problems. Because normally you're going into the bond market as a safe haven. Normally you go into the dollar as a safe haven. Look, Besant even said, he says, I don't think there's dumping by foreign investors. He said that, he pointed out to what he said was increased foreign demand at auctions for the 10-year and the 30-year Treasury securities last week. That was last week, my brother. Okay. And what you've got to understand as well is if the bond market does crash, that undermines the value of debt that the US holds, that undermines the security, or should I say the confidence that people have in buying US debt. China is dumping bonds, okay? Now China's playing not devil's advocate, but in saying, let's get together, Euro, and let's do some business together. All right? And I think Trump is fully aware of this. And I do think that we are going to go into, I personally think the administration is just talking shit. I don't think it truly understands the impact of what they're actually achieving here, because it's evident with investors. Like, investors can't put money to work. Okay? You've still got high interest rates, man. And there you go. It's gone up again. So we're going to have higher rates for longer. And the yields that are currently at with the dollar right now, look, expectation is to have interest rates high. Okay? So why isn't anyone locking in bonds? Why isn't anyone taking advantage of these high yields? It's because they expect them to go even higher. They think that the tariffs themselves are going to cause a big problem for the market across the board. Look, check this out. Here's the 10-year yield. We talk about, the 4.4% region and what have you. Let's just jump back quite a few time frames back. Let's go to the monthly time frame and look at where your yields have been in the past. I mean, brother, they have been in 82. They shot up to 15%. And you can see that they shot up to about the 5%. And then in 99, we've seen 7%. You had 8%. Like, these are levels that they can go to. But what we're witnessing is there is a massive jump in the yields, which means that as time progresses, investors are starting to come to the terms with the fact that the bond market or US debt is actually garbage. Look at how much of an increase in the yields we've had since November 2021, when they bottomed out, okay? When we had zero interest rates, okay? Shot up. That is a problem. And given that we are where we are with the trade war and the tariffs, look, so this is the funny thing about it. You've got this Russia and Ukraine war, and Russia wants to end the war with Ukraine. We've already got another war, but this one's financial, which can effectively lead to a war. The next step from tariffs, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, is sanctions. It's going to happen. Why? Because if Trump says, here's your tariff on China, China turns around and says, no, here's your tariff. Okay. And then Trump comes back and says, okay, here's another tariff. And then China says, okay, we'll give you another tariff. This pawn forward, pawn back, no, not pawn back, but pawn forward and moving your king back and forth just to avoid the checkmate when you're inevitably going into checkmate, okay? It's going to lead to someone getting pretty pissed off, and that will be Trump. And I think Trump will put a sanction on China. He'll scrap the tariff, and then he'll say, here's a sanction, deal with that one. Russia's been getting sanctions left, right, and center. Okay, Biden slapped sanctions all over the place on Russia. But I believe Trump's going to pull out a sanction because it's not going to go the way he wants it. Look at how China's playing the game. You've got people on social media now exploiting the luxury industry. That's going to upset a lot of people if that luxury business, or the luxury businesses overall, end up collapsing. Okay, there's going to be a boycott. And this is going to give power to China, massive power to China. And I just think that with the yields going up so aggressively, the topic of the everything crash, that could be coming into play because investors don't trust US debt. They don't. This right here is just trying to sell the idea. And he's even said that we've got a big toolkit to save everyone. You shouldn't be saving people in the first place. The tariffs, you want to get the dollar going? Your tariff story is not looking good. It's not looking good because investors don't like it. You're hitting economies. You are hitting environments or economies that are going to fuel the idea of the NASDAQ going up, the S&P going up. You're fueling the idea of Bitcoin going up, okay? This is speculation. But you're taking that away from investors. And if they're not even buying the most basic risk-free asset, there's a problem. And that's evident right there. So if there's going to be a bond market crash, I've said this, the 10-year needs to be trading above 5% to really grab people's attention. But if it gets above 5% and it's still not enough, that's when the bond market is going to get the retrieval and be hoping that the Fed comes in and starts buying up bonds, buybacks. That's their big toolkit, buybacks. But you've increased the debt ceiling, okay? And now offering a buyback, it will be welcomed in the first 5 minutes of the market and what have you. But the longer picture is saying that that's no good, which is then going to force investors to demand more for a rate of return, which will naturally then force the interest rates to go higher, which naturally then force what? It's going to force your recessions. It's going to force problems. Why is Trump talking about helping the farmers? He shouldn't have put them in there in the first place. But yeah, it's the golden age and what have you. They ain't buying your risk-free asset. Where's your golden age? Investors are clearly shit scared about things because gold wouldn't be going up so much. And remember, gold goes up on 3 environments. They go up on the safe haven status, if there's a war and what have you. It goes up on the idea that the interest rates are going to get cut. And it also goes up on the idea that maybe interest rates aren't going to be cut. And investors are looking for the safety of gold because the dollar is deemed worthless. Okay? Look what people are buying. They would rather prefer to go to an asset with 0 yield. There's 0 yield in gold, right? Why on earth are they going to gold? Well, we've established why they're going to gold. And that movement in gold, in my opinion, is undermining the bond market. It really is. Because if you're not going to go into risk-free assets, when I say risk-free, it's just low risk, but you would rather go into a speculative asset like gold. Trump, man, like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? You know? I'm telling you, the day I heard him say that Charles Schwab, he made $2.5 billion today and he made $900 million today, he's rinsing off the Oval, the office. The US economy is treating it like a business. He really is. That's my opinion. And we can see from the markets that investors do not like it. Man, I wish Biden was back in power, man. How many of you agree or disagree with that? Tina, what's your opinion on Bitcoin long and future? Listen, the thing about Bitcoin, right? I mean, look, let's just go into it. We saw an article come out today about BlackRock buying Bitcoin, $35 million, even the turmoil of the marketplace. And yeah, here we go. So there's your purchase right there. Okay. We see that happening all the time, but no one talks about it. They're always buying the Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't move. But there's a lot of accumulation happening. There really is. Like, Bitcoin's getting ready to go to the moon and what have you. Ladies and gentlemen, if they're not buying the US bonds, what the fuck are they buying Bitcoin for? It's not making sense, is it? I'm not going to go into a $144 trillion market cap business or asset class. I'm not going to put my money in a low-risk investment. Nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go over to Bitcoin because it's a $2 trillion market cap. There's a supply. And, you know, it's quite kind of volatile. Plus, Larry Fink buys it. Well, on behalf of people, he doesn't buy it. You get what I'm saying? You know, it's catch 22. Is it? Like, how many of you... I'm just thinking outside of the box. Some of you might like what I say. Some of you might not like what I say. Oh, what do you want me to say to you? Fucking look, this is the game we are in. You know? Economists, theorists, they don't get it right anyway. Because, look, by the principle of the VIX, we should be going into a nice little bull run in principle, okay? We should have had a recession not so long ago. Debt ceiling has been increased 4 times nearly. No one's talking about that. But let's just advertise to everyone that everything is doing good. This face doesn't even look trustworthy. If I can't see the guy's eyes and his mouth is sealed shut like that, I'm not trusting it. He's too sharp for me. He's like, just... No, I have no evidence that it's sovereigns behind the drop. It is, man. It is. Listen. You just need to listen to what Powell has to say. It's ultimately what Powell has to say, and Powell is speaking tomorrow. So that's my logic right there. I don't know if I'm making sense to any of you. Bitcoin is not insolvent countries' debt. I understand that. Bitcoin is risk-free. It's a low market cap and low risk all the same time, man. Yeah, it's not risk-free, in my opinion. It really isn't. I think, for the love of God, I think Trump is good in the long term for the markets, but yeah, I've already got PTSD of this. Looking at today's rejection of Bitcoin daily candle and the Bitcoin dominance still rising, we are looking for a discount on alts, right? How much more of an discount on the altcoins do you want, my bro? You want more discount on altcoins? I mean, come on, bro. It's rough. I mean, ETH is just sat there. This is one of the setups that I sent for ETH today, and it's just gone nowhere. It's just stayed there. What the fuck's going on? Doing anything? Never mind. Let's just have a look at Bitcoin dominance. There you go. There's your wick recovery, man. It's just brilliant how it does it. Yeah, 64.36 is what I'm looking for with Bitcoin on dominance. That's where I'm at with it. USDT. Interesting. I don't like this. I really don't like it. I don't like that recovery up there. Where do we go from here? Can I use the hybrid system on a free trading account? Yes, you can. You can. You know what? I'm not buying anything yet. I'm actually selling. I mainly play gold. Okay. And I'm waiting for a little bit more of a move high. I don't think we're done with gold's move to the upside. I do not think that. Okay. We've got too many scenarios where countries like China could be forced to keep on buying gold. Many central banks are going to be forced to buy gold. They're not buying debt. That's one thing for sure. They're not buying the debt. Alt season is right around the corner after the recession, that is. Yeah, just... Here we go. Tina, we have lost 90,000 factories and there is no middle class support. We are taking back and we don't give a damn about Wall Street. We want to win. Go Bitcoin. Listen, I'm all down. Look, guys, I'm all down for Bitcoin. And that's what you guys got to understand. I am for Bitcoin. But I want to try and give you the idea of stepping away from Bitcoin has to go because of this fucking angle of a logarithmic chart that's like a rainbow and fire cell and all that shit. It doesn't cut for me, man. It doesn't. It's we can use the glass node and all these crypto quants and what have you. But surely some of those guys in those companies have asked the question, scratched their head and said, why is this thing not fucking moving? Yeah, whales are buying, okay, but surely it should have gone to, then that could be consistent with accumulation. You don't know. Miners, are they selling actually? Wait there, let's have a look. Miners, my face is itchy, man. Sign up. What do you mean sign up? Sign in. There you go. Just quickly sign in there. Let's get this done. Here we go. Miners position index. What are you doing, miners? Please like the stream, ladies and gentlemen. It's free to do. There's no tariffs on the like button. Here we are. So that doesn't make sense. Bitcoin slumps to 76, and that was the most selling activity from miners. Even miners are confused.com. You don't sell at that point. Why would you sell there? Doesn't make sense. It's just shot back up. So that right there tells me, okay, that reading right there gives me the understanding that even miners are starting to get concerned about things. When they're selling as it's dropping, they're obviously implying that they want to raise capital. But what a time to flip and sell it, my bro. Like, you sell the low. Doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. Bitcoin. I don't like this. I don't like that spot on Bitcoin. I like this spot on Bitcoin, and I like this spot on Bitcoin. I just don't like this spot on Bitcoin. It's a problem for me. Any questions, guys? Any questions before we call it an evening? Can you give us an update on MicroStrategy? Yeah, I can actually. Let's get what is going on. Why is everyone look at that, man? Bleed across the board. Wow. How many of you actually hold MicroStrategy? Hey, look, it's doing great. I can't deny that. It is doing great. You know, it's holding out. And I shit talk this company all the time. All right. I really do. From a fundamental perspective, it's a shocking company from a fundamental perspective, in the sense where if you were to buy it based on value, it doesn't make sense to buy it. But if you're into crypto, like if you pull an investor and say, here's a stock, they knew nothing about it, and it'll be like, beforehand, the actual description of this company was not provides Bitcoin Treasury service. That's not what they were before. And even though they are now, this is what they are. They're an analytics software platform for various industries. Cool. Just put away the Bitcoin Treasury bit. If no one knew about that, they would never invest in this company. Both quarters have seen the same number of fund managers holding this stock. We're not seeing an increase for a whole quarter. They haven't loaded up. That's a bit of a problem for me. We need to see more fund managers getting involved in this, because then that would be the expectation that they have belief in this company. But from a fundamental point of view, it's dog shit. It doesn't do anything. Quarterly earnings are decelerating in triple figures. They don't sell anything. They don't earn anything, but they hold nearly and over 500,000 Bitcoin. And they got about $46 billion worth of profit, if I'm correct, on a yield of 6.9%. Like, you know, with an average buy price of 67,000 on Bitcoin, like, you're cool, man. That is what's going to appeal for investors with MicroStrategy. But even though BlackRock holds 5% of MicroStrategy stock, yeah, they're not going to be going anywhere anytime soon, are they? But can BlackRock hold the Bitcoin market? I mean, it manages $11 trillion. What's $2 trillion going to do for them? Nothing. They can hold it. I think BlackRock can manipulate Bitcoin's price massively. This is the BlackRock range. You know, this is the actually, this was the BlackRock range. Okay. That right there. Yeah, it's if you just spell the word BlackRock, right? I don't even spell it with a little K right there. That's the BlackRock strategy right there. I'm just talking shit, guys. Sorry about that. Yeah, but I'm joking. This is BlackRock's range. It's the expansion. Now we've got a little bit more. It's hard, you know. It's one of those. What is a pattern in trading you used that worked most of the time? 90% of the time, I'm looking for W formations. Why? I don't like shorting. I really don't like shorting the markets, because people tend to be more optimistic than pessimistic. All right. When someone sees prices dropping, they're not scared. I'm trying to, I try and align my thinking of the market in line with the person that's buying as prices are dropping, like these guys over here. See this big stack of buy orders coming into play here, right? They're buying right now. So there is an expectation in the future that they're going to be selling, and that selling will be done by a W formation. So they're going to W formation, create the pattern, and up she goes. If you don't know, just go and take this free course. There's a whole concept on the patterns. The whole story is right there on the patterns. You want to get in more detail about the structure and the hybrid system and what have you. That's when you got the V-shaped reversals. I trade a lot of V-shaped reversals. That's really my go-to. But, you know, W formations and V-shapes, that's what they are. Because what is a W formation? It's two V-shapes. There's the first part, and there's the second part. So I get one failed V-shape, then the successful V-shape. W formation, happy days. Green vector candle appears here, but it doesn't appear over here on that move. So that's what I'm looking for. Forget about moist foreheads of bruv. Oh my days, you caught me. Do you think it was BlackRock who suppressed Bitcoin into a stable coin there for a while? Possibly. Any other questions? Oh, sorry, I just saw someone say something about the SI ranges. Yeah, it wasn't a short when the euro hit bad news. That yeah, well done for that, Peter. That's the problem with this market, man. What do I do about crypto face market cipher? What do you mean? Listen, every system, the hybrid system is not an indicator. It's not an indicator. Tell me what you can put on this chart that you can't put anywhere else. I can put moving averages. Okay, so I'll just do this then, right? There you go. Look at that. If I remove everything, and this is going to be important, I can still use this. I prefer to use it like this. I don't need EMAs. I don't. Do they help? Yeah. But I don't need EMAs. All I need is the vector candles. Because vector candles paint the picture. There's no indication on here. There's no indication to say buy. There's nothing to say sell. There's nothing. You've got to try and understand the behavior of the candlesticks. And the only best way you can do that, ladies and gentlemen, is if you go back in the chart and try and create patterns of behavior. The most basic pattern is the W formation, right? Another one is the M formation. Another one is the pattern, the rise, the retrace, the continuation to the upside. That is the pattern. That's the fundamental pattern that we all look for. Okay? But it's the candlesticks that give me the picture. So I see price marking up here and I see no recovery of the vectors. What do you think I'm going to be doing? I'm going to be trading back towards that zone. What I need to wait for is what? Wait for price to start breaking down and then trade to that logic. If I missed it on the first candle, I catch it on the next candle because it's already made its way towards that point. I don't need moving averages. I don't need... I could trade off this easily. No problem for me because I had to do it. I had to break it down and understand what I was looking at. Go back in the charts and I challenge anyone to do it. Find red vector candles and look at how many times price comes back and recovers them. Okay? What you got to do is you got to see a big move, and then you got to wait for price to consolidate. Don't come back to me and say, Tino, there was a red vector candle that didn't get recovered from 1961. What the fuck is that? It has to be local. It has to be close by. And every time you see a structure appear, like for example here, right? Look at this violet vector candle, right? Take that. And this is part of the block principle, okay? That's what's left of that violet vector candle, okay? Does it recover it straight away? No. Look how long it's taken them to try and get to that point. Look at how they respect this range. So that area is consistent with selling. Will they come back into it? Of course they will. I think Bitcoin's going to come back into that 90K range. It's going to. But that's a vector candle region that they're going to look to try and recover soon. So I then look at that and I say to myself, well, okay, what do I need to see happening for that logic to be the case? Well, we've got a high right here. So I need to see Bitcoin getting closer to that. If it breaks that point and then shows support, I can then trade towards the logic of it coming back here. So I'll be building positions inside between 88,540 and 86. As long as it retains itself and holds, yippee-ki-yay, breakout. Trade towards it. Be realistic with it. Is that helping me with any moving averages? No. Don't need them. But I say that given that I've spent so long looking at this. I look at this so much. So you start to pick up on things, you know? Anyway, he's done it again. He's done it again. Anyways, should I sell my grandma and buy more Bitcoin? On that token, ladies and gentlemen, yes, sell your nan and buy more Bitcoin. With that being said, hit the like button, subscribe. If you want more information on the hybrid, go check out tradersreality.com. It's pinned to the top of the chat and all the fun and games that happen in that description as well, if you can make sense of it, that is. But yeah, bond market crash. Yeah, I think we're due for one. Yeah. Anyways. Adios, Nah, we ain't gonna say, I've been saying too much tonight, haven't I? But nah, let's be a bit polite. Good evening, ladies.